Welcome to our monthly Pass It On Network 50/50 conversation series. We are in Pass It On Network, our global community that spans over 60 countries. And if you look around the screen, you're going to see some of them already represented. And what we do is collectively and individually address critical issues that older adults around the world are facing. I want to just take a brief moment to welcome Moira. Moira is not going to say a whole lot today because she's suffering from upper respiratory, one of those things that you get in the fall and winter, and she is going to just say hi and
greetings to everybody. I'll be listening to everything, but I won't be talking.
Okay, there we go. So stay with us, stay on camera. Today we have a topic that I think a lot of us are familiar with, but don't know too many details. It's the we're looking at the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, that were announced in 2020, and they're called the 2030. So between 2020, Cynthia is saying no, so maybe after. By 2030, we have to accomplish a whole bunch of them. See, so much for that. I'm going to learn a whole bunch also. And we have a Jeff Rubin and Cynthia Sturen are our people there in this International Stakeholder Group on Aging that is very interested in the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And they're designed to ensure that no one is left behind. And they focus on eradicating poverty, promoting social inclusion, and fostering equality. This is all I can tell you in one sentence. And today, Jeff Rubin, our longtime pioneer, who serves as Pass It On Network representative on the stakeholder groups on aging, is going to enlighten us and tell us more about it. Jeff is a speaker, an author, an advocate for positive aging. Jeff is the right person because he believes that every individual has the right to be heard and the power to make a difference, the power of one. He's a champion for inclusion and collaboration and considers both essential components in fostering productive and effective change. And Jeff is also the founder of Wisdom of Age movement, dedicated to promoting positive aging and transforming the culture of aging. If you want to know more about the Wisdom of Age, there's a monthly roundtable, and I'm going to put the link in the chat so you can register and join. There's one, I think, next week. Additionally, Jeff lives in Kentucky, US, and he lives there with his wife and his Australian shepherd, Toby. Maybe we'll see Toby kind of passing in the background. I've seen him before. Jeff, welcome.
Thank
you. You know, I've been following you for a long time, about all the things that you do, and I'm really curious because I actually don't know that. How did you get into this kind of advocacy for positive aging? Maybe you could tell us briefly.
Briefly?
Yeah.
My mom, you know, I was a long distance caregiver years ago, and it was eye-opening because what resources were available, finding that out, knowing where to turn for particular issues and what have you, was not an easy task. And I had two brothers who were living close to my mom, and they really had no idea what they could do to help my mom. And my mom was of a generation that said, if my children don't need to know everything. So they kept it to themselves. You would say, Mom, how you doing? I'm okay. When she's not okay. So it really got my attention as to what's going on, what isn't going on, and it started me on this path to becoming an advocate for positive aging. So.
And from there, we just threw you into the stakeholders group on aging and the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. And maybe you can help us tie the two together and tell us how it all fits together and what is it that we can do to help?
Well, hopefully I can do that. Can I start the presentation? Let's see. Oh. I don't know if I'm missing something, if you can see it.
Not yet. You
Not
have to share.
Oh, hold on. That's not it. Sorry, guys. I got to go back here. I know you said there was something that I'm missing. I was not. If I go to more.
If you click on share, which is a little
Oh,
green.
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. Technology. Clicking on share. I'm not getting anywhere.
So if you click on share and you find the screen that you want to share,
yes,
click on that screen to select it, and then click on at the bottom of that there'll be something. There you go. It's there.
Okay, there you go. All right, and if I want to, yes, I want to do that. Okay. Let me go back. Okay, well, well, thank you for allowing me to present this morning. I shared with Moira and Asna that I said I wondered how many people on the call already know about the UN Stakeholder Group on Aging. And as Asna said, everybody knows something about it, or at least a fair amount of you do. And I did not, prior to being asked to participate and be a representative from the Pass It On Network. And so I came into it as many of you might have come into it if you were asked to do the same thing. Now, the particular objective is to advance the 2030 sustainability agenda. Well, the question is, how many people knew about that, as well as how many people knew about SGA? And so I want to talk about it from the standpoint of how I got involved in this and how I see it. Now, Cynthia Stone has been a long time advocate and participant in the UN Stakeholder Group on Aging. And she certainly can share more information on this than I can, but I would just want to give you my perspective. So let me move forward and say, what's the role? I mean, why are we doing this? Obviously, the world is rapidly aging, but we're not keeping pace with that. And the UN's 2030 agenda recognized that older persons are a key to sustainable development. And we recognize that older people are a key, but most people are not looking at older people as a resource or relevant. And when we talk about the issues that are impacting older adults, we're not talking specifically about older adults. We're talking about people in general. And I think by talking about people in general, we're missing out on an opportunity here. So when I look at this, I look at it from the standpoint of the Pass It On Network and the members and what you're already doing to advance the goals of the 2030 agenda. And it's often being done without realizing that you have an impact?
It's Cynthia. If I could just make a comment.
Sure.
Okay. First of all, Jeff, that was an incredible overview, and I really appreciated how you framed it. If I could just give a couple of seconds about how we got to the Sustainable Development Goals and what the 4 goals, well, 5, there's always the 17th goal. Every year, the HLPF selects 4 goals to focus on. And I think you can stop me, but I think it might be helpful for us to think about the 4 goals selected for this next year, 2026, before we go into breakout. But it's your group. First of all, they're 15-year goals, and they started in 2000 with the Millennium Development Goals that ran from 2000 to 2015. About 3 years before, about 2012, is when the process began for the next cycle, a 15-year cycle. Important to know, the Millennial Development Goals were focused on developing countries, not developed countries, which is a major change from the Millennium Goals to what we call Agenda 2030, the Sustainable Development Goal Agenda. And that was a multi-year process from member states identifying what came out then eventually as the 17 goals that were for all countries, developing, developed countries, and where the Stakeholder Group on Aging took a leadership role to come together, saying there can be power in our coming together, and we formed the Stakeholder Group on Aging and became a member of the major group and other stakeholders. So what's happening for the coming 2026, the 4 goals that have been identified for member states to report their progress on are Goal 6, clean water and sanitation; Goal 7, affordable and clean energy; Goal 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure; Goal 11, sustainable cities. And every year, regardless of the 4 goals, Goal 17 is always included. And that's partnership for the goals. And one section of Goal 17 specifically addresses data. That is critical for older persons because we need good data to document whether older persons are being included or not being included. And if they're not in a measurable objective, of which there are 122 objectives surrounding these 17 goals, it doesn't matter. It doesn't count. Hence, there's been a real movement around data collection, data disaggregation, which we've advocated. The Stakeholder Group on Aging advocates for 5-year disaggregated increments. Otherwise, depending on your country's determination of who's the older person, is your cutoff 60 in your census? Is it 65? Is it 70? Is it 72, etc.? Those are all in country, okay? But do it by 5-year increment. You should not bunch together all older persons, which can cover 5, 6, 7 cohorts of people, given today's longevity. So those are some critical issues just to think about. But I just thought it might be helpful to have the goals that are being evaluated, and your member state, they're called voluntary national reviews, has the opportunity, and they try to really, you can do it every go round, or people sometimes do it alternate years or every 3 or 4 years, to state what is your progress, on these goals. And the way we all can feed in our countries is in the mechanism in your country that feeds in to your UN work and the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's important for local, but regional, national, and then regional. So like for many of us European that fall under UNECE, North America falls under UNECE to provide our input there. In addition to in the United States, it goes through our Department of State, but it pulls heavily from our departments within our country that focus on older persons. So I hope that's helpful.
That was both helpful and confusing because one of the things that I can say about myself is that all of a sudden I felt like, oh, there's a big distance between what I can do and what is actually all the bureaucratic mechanism. And I'll just speak for myself that I'm really curious about, and maybe we can explore it a little bit more in the, let's take those 10 minutes breakout rooms and just kind of try to detangle it. And Jeff, I really feel that maybe we should take those 10 minutes and then go deeper into this to give an opportunity for this to macerate a little bit in everybody's mind. And then come back and talk about that.
Yeah, I agree. I just want to share one thing with you. Cynthia, how long have you been involved with SGA and the UN initiatives?
2012.
2012. Okay. So it's been what? 13 years that you've been part of this?
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, and it's profound. I mean, the more it's like peeling an onion. The more you know, the more you find out, the more there is to know. But if I'm a person who's just beginning to come in and I want to play a part, where can I start? And
That's right.
So yeah, let's pause that.
Yeah.
Let's pause
Okay.
that. Maybe that's something that we can come back later after
Yes.
people have some formed more questions in their mind.
Yes.
So see you in 10 minutes ish. Yes, welcome back. I hope it was a good conversation there. There's so much to unpack on this topic. And let's take the next, well, we have 15 minutes before we call it a formal ending. So let's take that and hear about what struck you. What are you taking away from your conversation or from the presentation and the addendum to the presentation? Just to start there, and then we'll see where it takes us. So you can raise your digital hand. It is somewhere there at the bottom of your screen, your Zoom screen, or you can just wave widely with your regular hand, and you'll see. So there's Jackie, the first person.
Well, I just want to say, I think that here, just in the breakout room I was in, I think you have just a vast difference of knowledge and level of participation of just across the board, and we can all learn from it. And yeah, okay, I learned a lot because I'm really not involved in these in the Sustainable Development Goals, because that's a different commission at the UN in Vienna, and so I think we just have a chance to learn from each other in these dialogues. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you, Jackie. Any other thoughts? How can we make this happen? Okay, we'll start with Hans and then we'll move to Brian.
Yes, it was interesting. We were three: Toronto, and Reykjavik. So that was a nice, very nice discussion. And the main thing we were thinking of what is the role? What can the role of Pass-It-On network be in this sense? I mean, what can we do? I mean, this was Thank you very much, Jeff and Cynthia, for introducing. And we were all a little bit confused, like yourself, Osnat, when to combining these two good talks. We were thinking of sort of the organization or the stakeholders group. That do we understand that this is an international group, and who are members of that group, and how can we as individual persons and representing organizations or even representing ourselves in this network, how can we what can I say, how contribute to this? Whom do we talk to? Where do we send messages to Jeff or Cynthia or how do we do it? Thank you.
Very good question. Brian?
A similar thought was, Mastodon Network does have the potential to be a great communications conduit for all this information. And I think that's one of the things that I'm seeing is that what are the key communication channels? I work with a couple other organizations that have a similar issue. They have, we have this on social media and we can communicate on WhatsApp and we can do this and we can do that and it's LinkedIn and this, right? But if you create these conduits that bring people together where they can truly have a conversation and opinion, I think just as Wayne was saying earlier, is that can be a huge role in that piece. The second thing is and again, what Wayne said is that find the common threads of breaking down the goals that brings it into objectives, that brings it into strategies, that brings it into actionable tasks that can now be measurable so that you can say, we are achieving this goal by doing A objective, B objective, C objective that turned into these strategies. This is how we're applying those strategies in our country to meet that goal. By the way, these strategies are fairly common to not our country, but other countries as well. And maybe these common strategies, which we call something it teaches what's called super strategies and how to develop super strategies that multiple people can get on board with, which becomes very economic, viable, prudent with regard to savings and time savings and knowledge savings, and building those into actionable plan. And then I shared in our group the experience that I had with bringing 500,000 people together of all kinds of differing views and coming up with a very similar process, 2030 plan, coming up with very specific goals. And they were all over the map, but we came up with a method that took their ideas, just as Wayne said earlier, to be able to highlight and celebrate those ideas, see where the commonalities lie, because the different communities had different ideas, but we found common things. And those became the de facto objectives because there was enough people that says, oh, we have that too. We have that objective too. And those were things that they can measure and become tangible. That's where I kind of see a little bit of the disconnect here. And it could be because of lack of knowledge, or they do have this, but there's not that, again, that common thread. But I see where Pion can come in and the pioneers come in is bringing those common areas through a conduit that's going to be, could foster this and help it grow. So.
Yeah, and Brian, just one quick thing to add to that too, because your explanation is perfect. Have goals and objectives that aren't just a 10-year goal,
Right.
because people get engaged when they accomplish something this week. Oh, that's
Exactly.
exciting. Okay, how can we, and to have the sub goals and action steps and celebrate every time something is accomplished, even no matter how small it is. Keeps that momentum going and keeps people into it. Too many of these goals are just so lofty, most people check out because a lot of people, even like elders, think, oh, geez, by then I'm not even going to be around in a lot of cases. So what is it we can do? Act step by step and build on that together.
And Wayne, I'm going to share a very, very simple example with that. We have 7 different towns or communities that were looking at how to do traffic calming. And all of them said we have to do traffic calming. One said we want to plant trees and narrow the road. The next one said that we want to put a bike lane in. Another one said that we want to put in other signaling and tabletops and things like that. All of them had different methods. All of them were trying to achieve the same goal, and the same data metrics and measures were all the same. So it was great to see something like that happen and having them come together. And they found that by sharing those ideas, it saved costs on contractors, it saved costs on who we're going to use, it saved costs on getting that organization together, communities together, and getting people on board because of that. So, yeah.
Mark, before we go to you, I just want to insert a comment here that local initiatives, local actions build up much faster than going the other way down. And that is exactly because you can celebrate within the community the accomplishment of the community that is contributing to that community thriving. And I put a link in the chat about it. Kind of is a 3-minute video that illustrates this a little bit. It's about when you look at a big disaster, you feel like you can't do anything about it. But when you start instead hearing about examples from local initiatives of how they dealt with this, even on a one-to-one, then you feel that you have the power to contribute to your community, and with it to your country, to the world. And Mark, over to you.
Okay, really quickly, thank you for hosting this. I felt honored to be in a small room with Jeff and Harry Rick Moody, and basically, quickly, keep it simple. Be aware of the language, and if you raise the level of the ocean, all the ships go up. Those were 2 quick comments that were made in our group. You know what? I think I'm just going to stop and let somebody else speak if they want to about their experience. But thanks again for allowing this to bolster the networking that is very, very important. That's what we talked about. Okay, somebody else jump in.
I can. Anyway, maybe I'm talking too much, but I can give an example of one of the ones that we worked with. And the city of Toronto now has, they don't really have any homeless shelters anymore, but the homeless problem is nothing compared to other big cities around the world. There's definitely homeless issues. Why is that? Well, a few years ago, we did some research work and we used our platform. And we went out and found out that the word shelter, and this is how simple solutions can be sometimes, the word shelter was the trigger point. So we're going to put a shelter here, a homeless shelter here. The real estate agents would get everybody in the area together. There'd be a big pushback. The politicians, of course, don't want all the citizens against them, so they wouldn't put the shelter together. So we learned that shelter was the term. So we work with them and we help the city change to homeless neighborhood houses, not homeless, neighborhood houses and transition houses. And just the change of name allowed them to be in the areas, even though they did exactly the same things, right? And we can make the world a better place sometimes by really listening and understanding how people perceive things and work and not say, no, this is it. It's, oh, okay, let's adjust and take in some of this thinking. Right. So it's I know it's a weird example, but it's amazing how well and you know there's the transition houses even in some of the very wealthy areas that would have put up all this money to stop it from happening, and it would have standed up in court forever. Right. But these are some ways that we can help. And the transition house is not permanent. All right. So the support to it was there because people were being transitioned from homeless to being enabled. Right, as opposed to sheltered in an area.
It's interesting. It's also interesting you mentioned that transitional housing is very common on military bases. That's the common way because everybody's transitioning from one station to another station, and they'd be there for 1 or 2 or 3 years, and then they move on. But the housing is referred to a lot of times as transition or transitional housing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, words are very powerful. I can't
Oh.
remember who said that words make
Human
worlds.
perception is crazy
Yeah.
sometimes, the lack of understanding of what it actually means.
Well, last time we brought an example of senior center being renamed to positive aging community, and all of a sudden it tripled its attendance. Jeff, what you got to say?
Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on what Mark was saying earlier about the rising tide lifts all ships. The Pass It On network is a network, as Osnat has reminded me over and over again. We are a network of members who represent some 60 different countries. Okay. I think about what each member is doing in their own individual country. And imagine if we could collect that information in a way that allows us to interact with one another in a much more viable way than we are right now. That's why I was very much taken by what Brian is doing and what Wayne is doing, that if we could capture some of this in a way where all of our network members benefit, I think we have a much stronger organization, or a much stronger network, not organization, network, and a network that can contribute substantially to what's happening on a global basis. So I just wanted to throw that out there as perhaps we could be the guinea pig for that kind of forward progress.
And Jeff, not if, when.
When, right.
When we get this done.
When. Okay.
Well, there's an opportunity to do some of it today. This proposal, it's not the first time that it's coming up, and I think we need to, as a network, to give it some kind of a structure that people who have that kind of input are able to go there and do it. The technical aspect of it is immaterial, because there's always some kind of a Google Drive or Google Doc that people can go into and do it. We have several that we offer you to make contact with among you. So we have another 5 minutes before we close officially, and then I will tell you also what to expect next time. Maybe that's going to be the extension of today's conversation. But some final thoughts about that. Jeff, you have explained to me several times how you see it, and maybe we can pause it after what you're saying and then continue it in the 15 minutes thereafter.
I'm sorry, I wasn't quite clear on what you're asking.
I'm asking, you have intimated before that you have some kind of a structure in mind, or framework in mind of how can we actually bring all this input. And I don't want to specify what this input is. It can be anything, and let's welcome any input.
Right. I think the framework is what Wayne and Brian bring to the table. There's only a handful of people who are doing the kind of work that these guys are doing, and it really does. It's I have deepest respect for you, but I would not look at this as a Google Doc application. It is much, much broader than that in terms of showcasing what people are doing individually and what they could be doing collectively, and how we capture that in a way where we are moving towards a rising tide lifts all ships. But the kind of impact that you and Moira know is happening through the network, and has been happening through the Pass It On network for 10 plus years now. We're not capturing it to the degree that we could. And if we do so, it only makes the passing on network stronger, and our opportunity to impact age discrimination in any one of these 17 sustainable areas that much stronger. So I pass it back to Wayne and Brian to say, hey, guys, am I on target or not on target? You know,
one example, because I know, Asnet, you want to conclude, but one example, which I don't think is perfect, but it's very useful, is the World Health Organization's age-friendly global network. And you can go on it, you can look up by community, you can look up by theme, and you start to see what people who are accredited and to be part of that network that by the World Health Organization, what they're actually doing, who are the contact people, some examples. I don't think it's perfect by any means. I get frustrated, but people go in and say, oh, I'm talking about housing. Now, who's doing anything globally about X, Y, and Z? And they can extract from this platform who's doing what. Good idea.
So it's a fantastic call to action.
Yeah.
I, not on behalf of Pasito Network, but as part of Pasito Network, call people who are here today or people that you know who are part of Pasito Network and could be part of Pasito Network to get this stuff together. I certainly don't have all the knowledge that Brian has or that Wayne has or Mark, who has done a lot of that also. Let's get together. We know how to reach each other. Let's get together and build a framework and invite our, I think on our distribution list, we have about a little over 800 people right now active. And we can invite all of these people who are smart and resourceful as you are to use the Pasito Network as a platform for changing the world, to say it this way. I want to pause here for a minute because we're going to continue. I just want to tell you to close the call formally, and then we'll stay here for another 15 minutes. You can connect with other Pasito Network members. I put a link there in the chat. It's a Google Doc with an Excel sheet kind of with names of people and what they're interested in and the contact. If you want to, you join it, and if not, not. I also placed there a feedback link. I think we have a lot of things to say today. You can use it to say what you liked or didn't like about today's sessions, what you'd like to know more of, what you'd like, what conversations you'd like to continue after today. And lastly, we're a network. We don't have member dues or budgets or anything like this. We do spend about $2,500 or $2,600 a year on all the technology that allows us to get together here, to send you the Gazette, to have presence on YouTube, and have some licenses that we have to pay for. So if you think about it, please go to this link and give what you want. It's really appreciated. The rest of it comes from personal pockets, mostly for Moira. Just really appreciate that. Next month, we can continue these conversations, perhaps between now and next month, which is, let me just check. It's going to be the 8th of December. Next month, we were going to do another one of those Pasito networking event, but there are a few questions that stand before us right now. With the passing of Jan Hively back in May, Moira is the co-founder without a co-founder. Since we are a network, there's an opportunity here for many of us to reshape what Pasito Network can be going forward if we're interested in sustaining it. And that might take 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 co-founders, just people who are passionate about having this network thrive and continue this really rare and unusual collaboration among people from all over the world. So we invite you to our December 8th forum, and we will again go into small breakout rooms and try to come up with something, some idea, something more concrete of what do we want Passive Network to look like, at least the next year, and then take another year and another year. So that's the invitation. And right now we are formally closing. I want to thank Jeff and also Cynthia for bringing up these challenges and giving them form and giving them flavor and rattling our chains a little bit and see where it takes us. And at this point, we're going to continue for another 12 minutes until half past the hour to either continue this conversation or if you have anything else that you'd like to share. And that's Helen. It's just a goodbye. It's a goodbye. Okay. And Brian and Virgilia, you're just saying bye, or you like to say something?
Unfortunately, I have to get ready for another meeting in 10 minutes. So,
okay.
But there's lots to say, and there's a lot of opportunities, I think, and there's a few challenges I think that we can overcome. But it's a matter of how to take those policy items. I'm going to do more research, and how do you break them down so that there comes into people, as Wayne, I think will say, is that how do we get it down to a personalized approach that people feel like they want to be involved in, and their thinking and their saying can have an impact. We had in the town thing, we opened it up to as young as 15 years old. And we had high school kids coming up with great ideas to help their town. And guess what? That's the future of that town. And so we in ourselves have to kind of, create that sense of place and that sense of belonging that's going to create and stimulate and grow these ideas. So, yeah. But you guys all know this already.
And I just say goodbye. It was a very interesting session. And thank you all for your contribution. But I'm still a little bit not knowing exactly what the stakeholders group is and how it is working. But I guess I will learn more about it later. Okay. Bye. Thanks for today.
Thank you, Hans.
You
Bye.
Could I say a word?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
I just want Maura to get better soon, and let's hope that she can just continue her great work. I met her way back in 2016, and we try to get together each year, but I don't know. Maybe it'll be this coming year. So, Maura, get better soon.
Indeed. Yeah. Isaac, you have your hand up.
I do. I guess I have a question or a further discussion point, I suppose. Well, actually, if I could give a little bit of an update. So I'm not in Boston anymore. I'm in Dublin. I'm in my postgraduate degree. Anyways, earlier today, I was actually at a class. I was visiting a class on ageism and intergenerational relations at Trinity. And it was very fascinating. I had met the professor through a separate conversation. We were talking about ageism and technology. But anyways, it was a really fascinating class because it was undergraduate college students, and we had been discussing things about intergenerational solidarity, where generation divisiveness and stereotypes come from, in what ways, how to be critical or more nuanced about the ways that we separate generations. Anyways, it was a very excellent, I wish I had been able to take a class like that in university. But that does bring up my question for the rest of the group, and maybe Jeff and maybe other people here. What role do you think that young people could play in forging the path for within the context of the stakeholder group on aging or adjacent efforts? I guess what I'm trying to think about is what role, if any, could people of all ages play in a way that's mindful for work moving towards, which is, I think the end goal here is to make sure that we live long, that we live dignified lives throughout our lifespans. Because I'm thinking about, okay, well, I'm aware of aging discrimination, and I'm aware of how it's manifested in my line of studies and work with technology, and I'm aware of what ways I could contribute with. I'm going to write a thesis by the end of my academic year, so I'm thinking of ways that I could contribute in that sense. But and I saw it in class with the other students, like raising points about how they were viewing generational gaps and how they were learning to be critical, or more putting more nuance as to how exactly we are dividing ourselves as people across nations. I guess that's a really roundabout way of saying is what role, or if any role, do younger people could what role, if any role, could younger people play in forming part of these larger conversations, such as the discussions had with the stakeholder group on aging? Because younger people, of course, are not older generations. Well, I guess it depends on what you define as old. But yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's kind of what I'm thinking about right now.
It's like you're going to be old, so you can look at yourself as a future old. But I'd like to, for me, reverse the question and ask you, what is the role that you'd like to play? It's not for the older generation to tell you what role you'd like to play. Maybe you have some ideas yourself and bring them to the conversation. I'd like to pass it on to Wayne and then to Cynthia. Wayne, you had your hand before.
Oh, I wanted to thank you, Isaac. I think there's a huge opportunity in intergenerational engagement like that, as to what can we do together that isn't just about the aging population, it's about making everything better, right? Because when I was younger, there was a lot more connectivity with my grandparents and my parents and all the different generations. We got together regularly. We ate dinner together. There was still, sort of a autocracy, which happens in it. But I found some of the best times were when everybody would look at ideas and share new ideas and appreciate each other as a community. And I think it's a great way of doing that, and we've lost some of that. And there is the ageism, which is absolutely a significant issue. But we also have problems with older people looking at young people as the dumb new people that have to learn how to do new things, when in some cases they can see things fresh and different than might be a bit different. So how do we kind of work better together? So I think it's really being able to accept and collaborate together where the big opportunities are. And I've got lots of data and stuff, and reach out to me because I'm happy to share it with you if you wanted some of that into your research work.
Yeah, thank you.
Power of the network. Cynthia, and then Jeff will let you wrap it all up.
Well, I think you would be most welcome at any time, but I think you've hit on the key, and I think intergenerational and taking a lifespan approach is really where we need to go. And just looking at, for example, two of the sustainable development goals that'll be under the microscope in 2026 are really around industry innovation. We're talking technology, all right? And here's a perfect opportunity to say, how is this technology accessible, not only equitably, but accessible across the lifespan? And that means being sensitive to how older persons can use that technology, and instead of retrofitting something to accommodate vision problems or tactile lack of sensitivity, etc., you build it in from the beginning. But that's but that covers people of all ages who have disabling conditions. I mean, you have babies still born blind who are going to use technology. You know, it's a lifespan approach. And I think the other area is the whole area of climate change. I think we all care about climate change in a way that we have to preserve the planet that we're living on. And it's not looking good, but we need to come together, older and young. I think those are two really critical areas that we can work so collaboratively on and need to. And in the process, it hopefully will break down some of the ageist stereotypes that each side holds. So thank you for being here and being interested.
Jeff,
Yeah.
last words are yours.
Okay. Isaac, I would just say to you that I would be looking at, playing off what Cynthia says, I'd be looking at what do we have in common, not what we have different from one another. You know, and someone had brought up the age-friendly communities approach, which looks at 8 quality of life issues, okay? Affordable housing, transportation, employment, et cetera, et cetera. Affordable housing is not just an issue that affects older people. It's an issue that affects literally every generation. Looking at what are the commonalities of issues may be a place to start, and it may be a place to start the conversation where you're bringing younger people and older people together, and you find out that it's not just talking about the issues, it's talking about the opportunities to address those issues within the context of the group that you bring together. So I would look at it from that perspective.
Good idea.
What a great way to conclude this conversation. I hope we're going to speak about it more in December in our 50-50 conversation on the 8th of December. Please look for an invitation. It will be coming in your mail in about 10 days or so. Recording of this session will be available at the end of the week, as well as a recap, highlights of today's session, with all kinds of lovely links and slides from Jeff and everything that you might have forgotten. And thank you again for being here today, and we'll see you on December 8th.
Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.